Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Veloz webinar, Permit Approved Cities and Counties Accelerate Electric Vehicle Charging. We're really excited to be here this morning with our speakers and co-moderators and all of you. Thank you for joining this webinar. Today, we are placing all of your microphones on mute to minimize feedback, and we'll be answering some audience questions following the facilitated Q&A if we have time. We have a very packed agenda today, so we will try to get to your questions if possible. If you do want to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature in the Zoom menu bar. So I want to note that we are recording this webinar and we will be posting the recording on the veloz.org website in the next few days. So my name is Lisa Kilodikis and I'm the programs director here at Veloz. Today, I'm really looking forward to the discussion with local government champions that have streamlined their planning, permitting, installation, and ongoing operation of electric vehicle charging stations in their region. We know that widespread availability of electric vehicle charging is critical in giving Californians the confidence they need to purchase an electric car. We also know that we still have a lot of work to do in this area, but today is all about celebrating what local, city, and county champions have accomplished and what lessons they can share to help others achieve similar levels of success. Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to give a little background about Veloz. Veloz is a public-private nonprofit made up of about 40 member organizations, including automakers, utilities, state and local government, third-party charging providers, transportation network companies, and nonprofits. Our membership is broad, diverse, and growing. So if you're not a member of Veloz, we hope that you will join us. Veloz aims to inspire Californians to drive electric through our statewide awareness campaign, Electric for All, our summits, webinars, and other programs. We also publish a quarterly electric vehicle sales dashboard where you can find California sales, national sales, the number of California chargers, hydrogen stations, and makes and models. We have data right now up through the end of 2020, and we're looking forward to updating this with Q1 of 2021 very soon. So please check that out. So right now, I just want to show, we've been really excited to work with GoBiz on a partnership to help, with this permit streamlining. And so we worked with them in partnership on this video. So I will now share the video just to really, this helps encourage and promote AB 1236 for permit streamlining for local government. So with that, I'm going to do a little Zoom footwork here and play the video.
I love the glow of electricity in the morning. It all started when I was a kid with my dad's rally red 67 Corvette. I never loved visiting the gas stations, but I knew I could easily find one when needed. Now, I'm still into cars, but now, well, I've got this century's new red coupe. And her, well, Ruby's all electric. Luckily, I don't have to go to the gas station anymore. In fact, I've kind of ditched them completely. Now I go to charging stations and the spark of excitement is back. While Ruby charges, I can go do other stuff like grab a bite to eat or do some shopping. It's not always as easy finding a charging station. But thanks to a recently passed law, this automotive geek knows that, like gas stations, having trouble finding a charging station will soon be a thing of the past. The new law, AB 1236, helps streamline the permitting process for charging stations, which will help me recharge Ruby for our next adventure. Before AB 1236, there were so many roadblocks that went into approving charging stations. This meant California had a 70% longer permit wait time when compared to the national average, even with the exact same permit blueprint. Now, this new law reduces requirements to only health and safety, which significantly cuts down on the lengthy review. It makes things simple. Charging stations can be built everywhere, from parks to commercial shopping centers, with far more ease. And by increasing the availability of charging stations, you're aligning your city with green initiatives and preparing your community for more electric cars. In fact, the governor has set a new goal recently to have all passenger cars and trucks electric by 2035. Cutting down on the permit approval time allows for more widespread charger installations in your community, which in turn reduces the anxiety around charging and range, one of the top barriers hindering California's electric car uptake. You are in a unique position to create change. Join the Electric for All movement by encouraging a streamlined approach for charging station permitting. In addition to creating vibrancy in your community, by doing so, you're creating jobs, you're cleaning the air, you're growing green cities. And hey, I might be biased. I mean, more charging stations means more pollution-free road trips with Ruby and more electric cars on the road. And like I said, I'm into cars. The future of California isn't just bright. With you, it's electrified.
I hope you all enjoyed that. If you haven't seen it already, let's see now. Let's get back to my presentation here. This is the, once again, I'm going to just now very excited to introduce our speakers. Today we have Kylan Rathjen with the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, also known as GoBiz. He's a special advisor. We will be having Assembly Member David Chu joining us during this discussion. We have Brian Fauble, Energy Commission Specialist too with the California Energy Commission. Danae Evans, Transportation Demand and Sustainability Project Manager with the City of Richmond. We have Robin Eason, Long Range Planning and Sustainability Manager with City of West Hollywood, and Cole Prizabella, Director of Innovation and Business Assistance with Tuolumne County. And today we're excited to have these wonderful co-moderators, both important members of Veloz, Sarah Raffleson, Vice President, Market Development and Public Policy with EVgo, and Matt Nelson, Director of Government Affairs with Electrify America. So with that, I'm going to open it up for discussion with our speakers. I'll turn it over to you, Matt and Sarah, to moderate the discussion. You guys want to start it off? I think both of you are on mute. Everyone looks like maybe you're on mute. So let's unmute. If we unmute, then we can start the conversation. Welcome.
Certainly.
There we go.
I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, thanks.
Well, I think first and foremost, I wanted to introduce or give Kylan the opportunity to speak. Kylan has been a real leader for this issue out of the Office of the Governor, the Governor's Office of Business Development, or GoBiz, and he's going to walk us through a presentation, I believe, that will address what cities can do to streamline their processes, cities and counties, and what's working and what's not. Kylan, do you want to begin that presentation?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think that was the part that was next. Appreciate that, setting that up. So Kylan, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt, for your kind words. And thank you, Lisa, for your leadership at Veloz on this topic. I think we all need to work together to streamline California's permitting process for charging stations. So these events are a great step in working towards that aim. So like Lisa said, my name is Kylan Rathjen. I work for the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, affectionately known as GoBiz. And today we're talking about streamlining the permitting process for charging charging stations. So this issue doesn't get as much attention in the ZEV ecosystem, but it's a critical piece in achieving our zero emission vehicle goals. And our office provides support, best practices, technical assistance for cities and counties that are working to streamline. We've produced a guidebook, which you can see right here, which you can download online. And we encourage all the cities and counties online to have that guidebook available for your staff. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just going over California's most recent goal, Governor Newsom last September issued an executive order mandating the sale of all passenger vehicles to be zero emission after 2035. And we have additional goals for medium heavy duty vehicles and other types of transportation devices. So these are ambitious goals, and the only way we will achieve them is to get more steel in the ground, more chargers to refuel these millions of vehicles that are coming over the coming years. And the only way we do that is to make it easier to get charging stations approved. The way it works in California is the local jurisdiction essentially needs to give the thumbs up for a permit for a charging station. And while cities are very excited about that, and we're going to hear about the leaders today who have rolled out the green carpet for charging stations, we found that there have been issues with getting a permit throughout California. Fortunately, we have a very effective tool in the toolbox to achieve this permit streamlining goal. Assembly Bill 1236 was passed by Assemblymember Chu, who will be speaking later today, in 2015 to streamline the permitting process. So this removes planning from getting a permit. It limits review to health and safety concerns. It's really the most comprehensive and effective law in the United States about permit streamlining, about this particular topic of charging stations. Unfortunately, though, implementation of this law has been uneven throughout the state based off our analysis and based off talking to charging station companies. So we have a ways to go, but we really believe with all the energy and enthusiasm about this topic of electrification, we can achieve this goal. Next slide, please. And so why is this important? It's not just about cleaning the air, it's about producing jobs in California. Our office used this as an economic development tool. ZEVs were California's #1 export as a state last year. So this is a way to put people back to work coming out of COVID, and it's just a great opportunity for cities to rebound economically, on top of cleaning the air, which these great vehicles are so good at. Additionally, this saves a city and county staff time in permit approval. Instead of focusing in on lengthy reviews for a charging station permit with the red tape and delays, the review can be streamlined, limited to health and safety concerns through the building department, and can ensure a quick approval so that the city can focus on other great initiatives. So this is really a win-win-win across the board for local governments. Additionally, to put a fine point on this, Electrify America has found that the average permitting time in California exceeds the national average by 70%. And again, we have many cities that have really gone above and beyond to support EVs, but overall statewide, we have a ways to go to make this process easier. Additionally, it's more expensive and stations need to be redesigned more frequently. This is a similar experience to the other charging station companies as well. So we really need to work together, and our office is there to provide any support to a city or county that's interested. Next slide, please. So how have we, looked at the state in regards to AB 1236 compliance? The text here came out a little differently on the yellow, so apologize about that. But we've graded the state in regards to AB 1236 compliance. So the way that works is green means you're streamlined, you've met the requirements of the law. Yellow is partially streamlined. And red is not streamlined. And, so we have a smattering of colors here and are excited to get all of the state green as fast as we can. Next slide, please. So how are we looking at this issue in terms of grading? So first and foremost, we need a permit streamlining ordinance. So this is a law passed by a city or county that says you're going to streamline the permitting process. We have many examples online that you can pick from, and our office is happy to help you write an ordinance if that'd be helpful. Additionally, it's a permitting checklist is required. It's a document that has all the requirements an applicant might need to get a permit, so it makes it as easy as possible. Third, that there be an administrative approval process of a charging station. So it's funneled through the building department and is administratively approved to make it easier. Fourth, and this is a critical piece, that the review be limited to health and safety concerns. So aesthetics, parking issues, zoning issues should not come into play with a charging station permit. It should just be focused to health and safety to speed up the process. Next slide, please. And apologies for the text coloring being different than when I sent over the PowerPoint. That's my fault. Sorry about that. And so electronic signature should be accepted on a permit so that folks don't need to drive across town or fly across the country into City Hall. Particularly with COVID, this is a very helpful asset. Number 6 is that an association approval cannot deny a permit, so like a condo board. Seventh, there be one complete deficiency notice. So if different parts of a city have an issue with your permit, they're all bundled together so that there can be a rapid resubmittal for approval, and then they can get their permit quickly. And 8th is not required by the law, but you get a bonus point on our map if you have an expedited timeline to get a permit. So to speed up the process, you'll get your permit, you'll hear back from us within 15 business days. Next slide, please. And so how is the state doing overall? So you can see here 131 cities have been fully streamlined. So it's really exciting. We've gotten a big chunk of the state to get on board with this streamlined procedures, but it's only about a quarter of the state. 75% of the state still needs to apply streamlined procedures. And so we hope the folks who are tuned in here today can get your city and county on board with adopting an ordinance and getting a checklist posted on your website and streamlining behind the counter to be fully streamlined. Next slide, please. And to bring attention to this issue, which is very important for the governor's office, we've created the ZEV Permitting Olympics. So this is a competition geared at getting cities and counties to compete against one another to streamline. So the way it works is if your county and the cities within your county all streamline, you would get a gold medal in this competition. So we started in December and we concluded on Earth Day last week, and we did not have one county at gold medal status. But fortunately, 5 counties have stepped up and have received a gold medal in this competition. And we'll be concluding this presentation today with an award ceremony, which will be exciting. So there'll be many more opportunities to get involved about this topic, and we're excited to work with you to get the entire state green. Thank you. I'm excited for your questions later.
Thanks, Kylan. So with that, I will now turn it over to the facilitator, co-moderators for a discussion. Thank you so much.
Hey, Matt, you got any questions for Kylan?
Yeah, I'll take that. So Kylan, I think that you really went through the process here of what you guys have all learned, but I'm wondering if you could kind of give us an anecdote of like a light bulb moment that you've had in this process of a jurisdiction that kind of either their light bulb or your light bulb of how we can streamline and how we can do this a little more efficiently.
Sure. So we often get questions from cities, it's their first DC fast charger that's in their city, and they might look at this charging station as a gas station. And, you have a situation where the planning department is very involved, the building department's involved, and it's, requires a lot of work out of the city government. So when we explain AB 1236 to a city, the light bulb moment for them is that they don't need to spend as much time on this. It gives them kind of legislative cover to say, okay, the building department can take care of this, and we don't need to have this extensive review that could take many, many months. It's really the light bulb moment to know that they don't need that level of review, that it can just be building department. The review can be limited to health and safety concerns, and many of the other factors that come in with other projects don't affect charging stations. So I think cities go, hey, I don't need to worry about this. And we get smiles from the applicant and from the city when we talk to folks.
Would you say that's the most important or the top best practice also, or is there something else that's the #1 best practice that a city can adopt?
Yeah, so there's many best practices that cities can adopt that we have available in our guidebook. But in terms of what I'd say is just follow AB 1236. I mean, the law has been on the books for some years. Many cities aren't aware of the requirements. I would just say if you follow the law, you'll do great. But the 2 pieces within the law that really stick out to me are removing the planning department from the process, limiting it to just the building department review, and that review should be limited to health and safety concerns. Again, aesthetic issues, having colored ballards being a certain way, having landscaping involved in a project, that should not be the details. It should be health and safety limited.
Great, and now I can kick it over to Brian. And first, before I do, just wanted to thank Veloz for having us here today. EVgo has about 300 fast charging locations here in California, and we will be tripling our charging network over the coming years, focusing on about 40 different metro areas across the country. And as we look to do that, we're really looking to expedite not only permitting, but utility timelines, as well as several internal processes as well. So this topic is certainly very near and dear to our heart. And also, thanks for everybody for attending. I know everybody now has Zoom fatigue, so it's very encouraging to see so many people here paying attention on this really important topic. So Brian, you've got a lot of expertise on this topic and certainly see a lot here in California, given where you're sitting looking at Cali VIP. Can you talk about just any permitting delays that may have impacted the rollout of charging infrastructure from the state agency perspective?
Sure. Yeah, so thanks Veloz and everyone for having us today. So yeah, permitting delays obviously have been a huge impact and has been on the CEC's radar since, since we started our DC fast charge corridor agreements as well. We actually partnered with GoBiz to do a joint workshop in 2019 to discuss how Cali VIP will start incorporating these permitting jurisdictions and their streamlined status into selecting Cali VIP projects. So what have we seen, especially from our corridor agreements? A wide range of inconsistency on these timelines, anywhere from 2 weeks on the great jurisdictions to almost a year, which is kind of unheard of and obviously has a big impact. Some of the impacts that we're seeing in Cali VIP, as well as just our agreements, is, like Electrify America stated, there's a California difference between the rest of the US, as well as in California, there's a difference between 400 jurisdictions, it seems like. So these network providers and everyone installing chargers, they have to relearn a different process every single time that they really want to apply for a permit. So that's something that's just needs to change. We can't have these delays and relearning a process every time. Obviously that deployment schedules, we have tight timelines. We want to see chargers be deployed, and that's just not happening. And so, our goals of meeting 250,000 chargers in the state by 2025, we need help on speeding up that timeline. The permitting jurisdictions also, have that incentive themselves to become streamlined, not just to save staff time and costs, but people with investments are going to want to go to places where they are not going to be, in between a rock and a hard place. They're going to go where they can get chargers done quicker and not have to fight the system, I think.
That's a really good point. And I also just want to point out, we heard Brian say Cali VIP. I know so many people call it Cali VIP. So you hear it right from Brian. It's Cali VIP. And then, so as the CEC is looking at some of those hurdles, how do you bust those barriers to streamlining permitting here in California and other barriers to charger deployment?
Sure. Yeah. So there's multiple barriers. COVID, obviously, as everyone knows, has been a big one, which just makes this permit streamline even more important, with more and more jurisdictions not even having their offices open or scheduling times when someone can come even submit a permit. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be online and have that ease of access really there. The other barriers are, the permitting, yes, but utility connections as well. We need to have a process that's less user intensive on the utility side as well. As we have fire season year round now, we need to have a process with the utilities be more streamlined as well. So I see two big barriers there, permitting and the utility side as well are kind of the two that we're seeing as our biggest. So on the utility side, we try to, in Cali VIP, we try to provide resources and work with the utilities, IOUs, POUs, everybody to provide as much resources to applicants ahead of time to say, hey, this is when you should contact the utility. This is what you're going to need, and this is who you should contact. And so the more resources we can have available on that information, I think that will help as well.
And that's a good point that you brought up with COVID too. We've certainly had that experience where we hear from an office that, you know, maybe they're just sending somebody in to check the mailbox once every other week, which of course has been a huge barrier. Everybody, including all of us, are adjusting to homework. So that's a really important one. All right, Brian, and last question for you. So what is your number one priority to get more chargers out there faster in California?
Sure. So again, I'm just going to keep tooting the Cali VIP horn that we had up to $200 million for incentives, and we launched this to provide a more streamlined mechanism for funding and installations. Again, compared to a normal solicitation that might take 5 years, we're trying to cut that into like a third of the time. So Cali VIP's hit its limit. We've done great with it, and we're doing new solicitations and seeking another 2 block grant administrators that I can't talk too much about because it's open. But obviously, the need for more funding. Private investment is there, but to reach our goals again for 250,000 chargers, which by 2025, there's still a large gap that's going to be in existence. And so we do need more funding for more chargers at this time to hit our goals.
That's a great point to end on. I think public-private partnerships are critically important if we're going to meet our state goals. Yep. All right, Matt, take it back to you.
Thank you. Well, Electrify America is kind of the new kid on the block in charging, and Kylan really went through some of the numbers that we've seen. But one of the things Kylan highlighted is that we're seeing longer permitting times in California and greater costs in California. We currently see an average of 16 weeks to get a permit in California, which is 38% longer than the national average. And it's still costing about 32% more to build a station in California than in the rest of the country. So this issue of soft costs is really critical to how much we can get done. As Kylan emphasized, and as I think the presentation is highlighted here, luckily this is a completely solvable problem. The AB 1236 compliance makes a big difference. And I wanted to turn to the city of Richmond because Electrify America actually just permitted 2 projects in Richmond, and we've got them under construction, and it's a smooth process. And of course, Danae Evans of the city played a big role in streamlining permitting. And so I wanted to ask you, Danae, if you can explain to us what kind of motivated you all to take action on streamlining. Was it us or was it others? What brought this to your attention, and what got the city of Richmond to be one of the stars in this topic?
Hello? Hi. Sorry about that. Basically, I joined the transportation department in 2016, and it was kind of like you get thrown into the deep end. But the good news for me is I was previously a code enforcement manager. So I was aware of some code enforcement interpretations and implementation. And so basically, I was assigned the task of hosting the city's National Drive Electric Week, which I knew nothing about. So I was immediately introduced to several EV owners, EVSE vendors, utility companies, various state department clean transportation grant funders. And I also had the opportunity to sit on many webinars, GoBiz, the Air District webinars, other, colleagues in the field and the industry, and also to sit on various steering committees. And so from that, I just kind of gleaned all the information I needed to hit the job running, so to speak. Just hearing the challenges from other city colleagues and also the experience of private ownership was something that was enlightening, and it also showed me firsthand what I needed to do to get charging stations installed in the city.
Did you find that you had to navigate a lot of the cities, especially kind of more sophisticated cities like Richmond? We see that a lot of departments get involved. Did you feel like you've had to navigate a bunch of different departments to streamline this process, and how's that gone?
Yes. So I initially ran into some internal challenges getting proposed EV charging stations approved, because the former planning director at the time viewed EV charging stations similar to fueling stations. And in our ordinance, we didn't, or in our zoning code, we didn't have anything that would address EV charging stations otherwise. Fortunate for me, I was speaking with a Tesla representative who brought AB 1236 to my attention. And with that information in hand, I had the opportunity to speak to the city manager, who was open to clean transportation. But given that the planning director was so adamantly against it, he basically directed us to go to city council and present our cases. Long story short, it was a daunting task. And the city council basically found in favor of clean transportation and EV charging stations. And to take it one step further, I also brought, I believe it was a Governor Brown's mandate that charging stations were allowed in parking lots as well. So at the same time, I included that, and it led to some public-private partnerships. But I also had the opportunity from that point on to work directly with the planning director, the building official, to adopt AB 1236 and to create the cheat sheet that we currently use for permittees. And I made myself available as a liaison for both internal staff and external applicants. Should the process get tied up, they know to come to me. If they need questions beforehand, they come to me. And it's worked out really well. I'm very proud of us.
Is there, with all of the progress you've made, is there one recommendation you would, is there, looking at you got 138 people on the line, and I think a lot of them are kind of 2 years behind you and thinking about this from the local level. Is there one recommendation of kind of a thing they should do, or a thing that they should keep in mind as they try to take on the same task at the local level?
I think the best recommendation I can provide is to use the resources available to you to make this process easier. That would be the GoBiz manual, or for us, we use the California Building Officials template. They have specific templates based on the size of your city that you could basically cut and paste. And the last thing is to ask your colleagues, your municipal colleagues, glean their adopted ordinances and see what works for you. We noticed that there were things that we would choose from different cities, such as Palo Alto and other cities that worked for us at the time. And you can make it suit your municipality.
Well, thank you. I want to make sure we pivot to Assemblymember Chu, who I believe has joined the line. Of course, Assemblymember Chu is the author of AB 1236, and he wrote that bill back in 2015, and he's really therefore the it might be overstating it to say you're the godfather of EV charging streamlining legislation, but it's not an overstatement. We've got some other states in the country that are now passing very similar legislation, and so in many ways you were ahead of the curve. I wanted to just ask you, first of all, make sure that I'm correct, that I've got you here, and ask you to tell us a little bit about how you came about and how AB 1236 came about, and to share with us what your views on how what it has achieved so far and how it's going.
Sure thing. Well, first of all, good morning. And as an elected official, I I've generally not been called a godfather of most things, but appreciate the fact that I did author this bill now a number of years ago. I was literally, until you mentioned it, I thought it was a couple years ago, but it has now been 6 years ago in 2015 that I was asked to do this. And just to contextualize it a little bit, I had been approached by folks all over the state about the fact that there was an incredible patchwork of regulations from city to city, county to county, that was really hindering prospective kind of EV owners' ability to get access to these stations. But of course, those that are trying to install the stations were really being challenged to figure this out. And so we moved this bill forward. I think it's fair to say there's a lot of consensus around this bill about the need to do it. And I want to just take a moment and thank GoBiz and the California Energy Commission, the industry, and all of the cities and counties that have thus far been able to move forward. I understand at the moment we have 131 cities that have actually streamlined. We have another 150 in progress. That's all really great news. I also know today we're going to acknowledge some of the streamlined permitting Olympic winners, and I'm excited not just for the jurisdictions that are being acknowledged, but my own city and county of San Francisco for being part of that. I think what I will say is the fact that it has taken 6 years for us to get here. The whole point of this was to streamline this, i.e. make it go faster. And my hope is that we can keep this going and really get this done in the next year. I think the fact, and I'll just say this, that there are 259 jurisdictions that have not really begun to engage. That's also really why it's great that we're doing this forum. We really need to educate all of our jurisdictions about how important it is to do, particularly given the urgency of climate crisis and where the market is going. And the fact is that we want California to shift to an EV world as quickly as we can.
I know, Assemblymember Chu, that you're continuing to work on this issue. So it's not like you handed the ball off back in 2016 or 2015, but you've been a real stalwart on this this topic with oversight and ongoing legislation. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what else is going on in the legislature on this topic, or anything else that we can do to support your efforts?
Sure. Well, listen, this year we not only experienced the pandemic and the recession, but you looked up at the sky and you saw orange skies. We had wildfires. We had power outages, heat waves. Climate crisis is real, and we have to do everything we can to address it. And we know that an important aspect of this is reducing the amount of carbon that's being put out by cars. The EPA has estimated that transportation is tied with power generation as the leading source of CO2 emissions at 28%. And so, this is not only important for our economy and for our local communities, but it's literally important for the world. And I think everybody knows that last September, Governor Newsom had issued an executive order that set an ambitious statewide goal that 100% of sales of new passenger cars and trucks be zero emission by 2035. And, again, I can't believe it was just 6 years ago when Governor Brown signed the bill. But in a short blink, it's going to be 2035. And if we're going to be successful at achieving that goal, we have to move immediately to build out the charging infrastructure and ensure compliance with AB 1236. And I guess I would say that given that 6 years after my bill passed, the fact that only a quarter of local jurisdictions are coming into compliance, this is really why I'm still talking about it. And I don't want folks to be surprised, but one of my colleagues, Kevin McCarty, asked me if he could take the lead this year, and I am the co-author of his bill, AB 970, to really take the next step, building off of AB 2036, to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. That bill essentially says that approval processes get expedited if building officials or city and counties are taking more than 20 business days, or basically a month, to approve these applications. So we're essentially saying to jurisdictions, hey, the stuff should be streamlined by now. If it's not, we are going to essentially deem these approvals to be expedited, unless there are some really good reasons why they shouldn't be. So just want folks to know, 6 years later, my hope is a year from now, if we're having a meeting, we can say 99% of all cities are done and everybody has gotten a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal in the Olympics.
Well, we share that goal. That is terrific news. We thank you for continuing to be a champion on this issue, and thank you for your time. Is there anything else you would like to share with the group, or should we let you go?
No, listen, I think I've said what's on my mind on this, but to all of the stakeholders and jurisdictions represented, please let our office know if you have questions, concerns, things that you wish we could focus on in the space. And again, I want to thank GoBiz and our state agencies that are working together to really move us all in the same direction. The approach of this bill was really to be sort of a carrots approach. And that I know is the approach of GoBiz as well. We did not specifically mandate things, and that was requested of us by cities. But again, 6 years in, given the climate crisis, we really do need to see action. So hopefully that will happen soon.
Terrific. Thank you so much for joining and your time today and all of your leadership.
Of course, appreciate seeing everyone, and have a good day. Thanks.
You too. Sarah, I think I'm supposed to hand it back to you.
All right. I love how awkward and seamless this virtual back and forth is here. So, all right, great. So let's go over to Cole. So Cole, question for you. Hi. So how do you think the needs of a more rural community can be a little bit different when we're talking about preparing for EVs?
Yeah, when we started talking about zero emission vehicles in Tuolumne County, and again, thank you for having me join, and thanks to Veloz for putting this on, is it really came down to an equity issue in my mind, and then also strengthening our local tourism market. The tourism market from the Bay Area is strong, and so we wanted to be able to encourage continued travel once they started to make that transition towards electric vehicles. And then when we started to hear about the 2035 goal for all electric vehicles, it was immediately an understanding that a lot of our residents, we are a little bit more of an economically disadvantaged community and a rural community. So having reliable charging stations with a reliable infrastructure network, the progress needs to start now if we don't want to be left behind.
That's a really good point, the economic development and tourism angle, especially since you represent such a beautiful part of the state. So that's a really helpful perspective to hear. So what would be your recommendation to other communities wanting to promote EVs in their own jurisdictions? Yeah,
so one of the things that I would say is communicate with your partners. That was one of the things that I found immensely helpful in this process, especially in Tuolumne County when myself, I'm not anywhere near a zero emissions vehicle expert. And so I had to rely on Kylon in our Tuolumne County Transportation Council, and then our Community Development Department on how this would even be a process that we could fix and be streamlined. So I definitely think if there are partners out there or anyone that's interested in getting streamlined, it's talk to your partners and have that communication line open.
That's really great to hear. And I think now I'll kick it over to Robin to hear another unique perspective. So Robin, given that you are representing an area with a whole lot of EVs, how has permit streamlining really helped West Hollywood better serve its community?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and thanks for having me, everyone. Just to level set, West Hollywood, I like to call a 1.9 square mile tiny but mighty city in the heart of LA County, sort of directly east of Beverly Hills, just to give folks some context. So I'm coming at this from the small city perspective, but I think I like to go back to what Kylan and Brian said. Kylan is saying that GoBiz is promoting kind of a win-win-win on both the applicant and the city's side of things. And Brian mentioned ease of access, and that's exactly what we're experiencing in West Hollywood. We adopted our streamlined permitting process back in June of 2018. So we're coming close to 3 years of having it in play. And I would say that we've seen an uptick in the number of community members that have been coming asking about how they can go about getting a EV charging permit, particularly during last year and during the pandemic when we were a remote city hall. And so having the paperwork already online, the permitting checklist, the zone clearance form online has really promoted that sort of ease of access for people to easily download, complete the forms, add their backup information, and then submit it via email to our building department, who then can confirm a completeness check and then move on with processing the permit for reviews. So it's been a game changer for us in many ways.
And anything to highlight? What has really worked best for you all in terms of streamlining this process?
Yeah, I think the approach of having a one-stop shop webpage, which I can put in the chat after our discussion, has really been the biggest game changer. It's available to whoever is interested in just learning the process, or if they're ready to actually submit for a permit, all they have to do is go on that webpage, read the instructions, download the forms, complete them, and then submit it to our building department for approval. So it's been a really easy process for the applicant and for our building and safety team.
That's great. And then last question before I kick it back to Lisa, but now that you have streamlined permitting for 3 years, so certainly an early mover there, what's next? What's your goals for getting more EV chargers installed in West Hollywood?
Yeah, so when we adopted our streamlined permitting process, we also adopted a EV readiness ordinance for new construction, which raises the minimum standards of what new projects need to include in terms of having a percentage of EV ready spaces and EV capable spaces. So that's been on the books now as well for 3 years. And then the city is also in the process of expanding our public EV charging infrastructure. So this time last year, we've installed 8 level 2 curbside chargers, and there'll be an expansion of that program in the coming months. And then we're also looking at installing a DC fast charger hub in one of our surface parking lots as well. So we're doing our part to provide public charging, as well as encouraging the private market to provide more charging opportunities.
Great. Well, really appreciate that perspective again. And Lisa, I'll kick it back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Matt, for the moderating, co-moderating, and thanks to all of our panelists for your really insightful, thoughtful answers and all the great work you're really doing every day to move this forward. So we really appreciate it. I'm really happy that we have some time for some questions from our participants. And if we don't get to everyone, maybe we'll see if we can get some of your questions answered post webinar. So I think this one might be for Matt or Sarah. Has there been any effort to bring in the utilities into this effort, like PG&E, to help streamline the electrical panel process, especially to install fast chargers?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I actually think has been really fantastic from the PG&E perspective is, I guess, 2 things to highlight. So one, having a dedicated account manager is really critically important because we are very distinct from other commercial customers that are asking for new service. And I think we have a little bit more flexibility in terms of where we place our chargers than, let's say some other kind of new development or a grocery store or something like that. So having an account manager is really great. And also working with us to streamline the easement process. Site host customers get very concerned about easements, and that's something that we've been able to work collaboratively with PG&E on. So, and I would say is a best practice, not just here in California, but also nationally. So in the chat, I can actually put in a link to a blog we wrote on easements in particular, but that has been a really large barrier for us with site hosts, especially as we're doing larger and larger sites right now. So again, happy to chat a resource out here that people can read up on that.
Thanks, Sarah.
The only thing, Sarah's dead on correct. Those are the 2 most important things. We find a huge benefit to having a standing relationship with utilities, and that makes so much sense with the big utilities. But what's interesting is we find the same to be true with some of the municipal utilities. We did the same with SMUD, and we have done the same with LADWP, and it's been fruitful there as well. The one thing I would note from a permitting perspective is that the best practice here is to do the permitting of a station and the design of the utility interconnect at the same time. Sometimes there is the desire to do one before the other, or a permitting agency will sometimes suggest that they can't issue the permit until the utility interconnect is done in its design. But then the utility will always say, well, they don't want to finalize the design on something that isn't permitted. So what we find is that if they're done at the same time, it leads to a very efficient process, and there's a pretty clear demarcation between the two facilities. But the meter marks what's on the utility side and what's on the charging company side, and so it works very well when they're done simultaneously.
Great, thank you. I think this one next is for Kylan, or anyone can join in as well, but what works best for getting cities that are under-resourced streamlined? Cities with less staff, sometimes only one person, where planning is handled by contractors, or where planning and building staff are the same. Any recommendations?
Sure, yeah. So I offer a blank check to cities from our perspective at GoBiz of helping you through this process. Anything you need, we're happy to be of assistance. So if know-how and staff time is an issue, I'm willing to, as long as you need to work through this process, we're happy to help from the GoBiz perspective. And I would just point you to our guidebook. I can put that in the chat later. I know it's a long guidebook, but you can do keyword searches if you're interested in a particular topic. That really provides a one-stop shop for information for what you might need from the rural jurisdiction perspective. And then again, just reinforcing the importance of AB 1236 and how, you really just need to have the building department look at it, with utility interconnection, of course, and the many other factors, but you don't need to have the many different pieces within a city. Even if a small city, if a person just comes by once a week, maybe that person doesn't need to look at this permit because they're, planning director, it's just the building department. So I just think the cover you get from AB 1236, our guidebook, and we can connect you with other rural jurisdictions in your area to help provide know-how, best practices to work through this process.
Great, thanks. Here, maybe for Kylan, or if anyone wants to chime in as well. So is it normally just one permit to build an EV charging unit, whether from a municipality, city, or state? And what is currently the biggest obstacle to getting permits approved? I don't know if Robin or Danae have thoughts on this.
I can speak from our city perspective. So it depends on if it's on public or private land. So you would need permission of the private owner. Secondly, if it does impact the public right of way, then you would need an encroachment permit in the city. And it's kind of one and the same. It's basically submitted at the same time. Both departments review it internally in our city. It's kind of like a very quick, I don't want to use the words plan check, but it's kind of like that, but it's very quick, less than 2 weeks.
Great. And what would like Kylan or Robin, what's the biggest obstacle for getting a permit approved? Is there something in particular that?
Yeah, I would say it just usually depends on the scope of the job. If the simpler the job is, the better, I would say. I think for the most part, what we're seeing in West Hollywood are residents that want to convert their parking space to an EV charging space, and those tend to be fairly straightforward. But if it's a larger project like Electrify America project or something like that, it might take a little bit more time to just understand all of the components of that job to make sure that all the T's are crossed and dots are I's are dotted. Or I's are dotted.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot. And like I said, if we didn't get to your question, we'll review them and see if we can, we want to be as helpful with this webinar with all of you and your questions. So we'll work with GoBiz and see if we can get your questions answered after the webinar. So with that, I just want to again thank all of our speakers and co-moderators and everyone for your time today. And I'm just going to close it out with a few updates on Veloz, and then please stick around because we've got a fun event following kind of this webinar portion where we're going to be giving out the ZEV Permitting Olympic Awards. So before we do that, I'm just going to share my screen again and run through a few activities happening kind of with Veloz right now. So if you're not aware of it, we're excited to have launched our latest electric car awareness campaign, 40 Million Reasons to Go Electric. So you can go to electricforall.org to view the animation. It's a 2.5-minute animation that really just highlights all the different reasons that all Californians have to go electric. So we hope that you go watch the animation and share it through your networks. I also want to mention, speaking of charging, we know home charging is also a very important component, and often, drivers buy their cars and it's a little confusing and they don't understand the home charging installation process. So working with Electrify America, we've launched the Home Charging Advisor on our electricforall.org website. So here, drivers or people looking to see more about electric car charging in their home can search level 2 chargers, find all the incentives available for their zip code. And then within a few, I'd say weeks or so, we're going to be launching what's called the Incentive Assistant. So you can apply for incentives for home charging through one application form. So that's hopefully really a game changer and will help just make the process easier for electric car drivers. And then here's a whole list of a lot of things happening with Veloz. So through just tomorrow, we have this electric car pledge. So it's called No Tailpipe, No Problem, I'm Going Electric. So please go to electricforall.org to, if you're not driving electric, you can sign up, take the pledge that your next car will be electric. And if you are an electric car driver, we would love a testimonial about why you love your car. We also are excited about our executive director, Josh Boone's recent new Ride to Zero blog. So he addresses different issues and opportunities around the electric car market. And we hope that we just released one yesterday about charging. So we hope that you visit our website to learn more about his blog and read his important information there. We are also going to be joining Forth's Roadmap Conference virtually this year. Josh Boone is going to be talking about our campaign and some research we've done around electric car perceptions and our campaign with consumers. So that's June 14th through 16th virtually. We've got our member summit coming up on July 13th. So we'll have more about that soon. And then we have a bunch of webinars coming up. Our next one on May 27th about medium and heavy duty fleets. So please go to veloz.org/webinars to learn more about our webinars. This is just, please sign up for our EV News to stay informed about all of our activities. And with that, we will now I'm going to turn it over to Maddie, who we're going to start the Permitting Olympics award ceremony. So let me stop sharing. I'm going to hand it over to Maddie, and thanks again all of my speakers. I appreciate all your time today, and thank you so much. Have a great day. And please stay with us for this important part of the webinar where we'll be giving out the awards. I will invite all of our award winners to come on screen. Hi, Tyson. Paul. Welcome. Jesse is going to join us, Jesse Denver. Supervisor Campbell, I'll invite you to join us. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Cole.
All right.
And do we have... Welcome, welcome. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tyson, and we can take down the presentation and welcome all of our winners. So welcome. Tyson,
Great.
it's over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And looks like, well, Supervisor Campbell will figure out how to get you on. Hopefully you can still hear us. And we have Cole here at the very least. But we're very excited to have everybody here. And you all look great with the backgrounds and the medals. And I want you to picture we're in a big stadium. It's about 25% capacity, appropriately distanced. We're running up there. This event is something we've been very excited about for a long time. So as you know, in a lot of Olympic events, you're talking, there's one gold medal winner, but really we want to think of California as a state delegation. So we're trying to get to 58 gold medals, and really 5 is a great starting spot. And so, I wish we'd all be here together, handshakes, hugs, and certificates, but we are going to send out certificates and stuff. And so, as we go up here, we have, 5 great champions, local champions, who are going to accept the awards for us. But to be clear, the awards go to every city and count within the county, every city within that county. And it's a big deal to get to 100% streamline. And as we go through, I just want you to take notice of who's here. Oh, good. We got Supervisor Campbell. This is a pretty interesting cross section of people who have made, put the work in to make this all happen. And so it really does take local leadership. It takes focus and stamina to get this all over the edge. And so want to thank all of the work that you've done to bring your county and cities along. And so I want to start off here. We're going to go alphabetically, but the first award, and Jesse, are you able to show yourself? Just making sure we can all be up here. We'll start. So Jesse, I just want to make sure you're there before I go in. We can also.
Looks like she's here, but not on camera or audio right now.
Well, how about this? Let's start with Alpine County, and then we'll go alphabet. But Alpine County, so we have Nicole here from Alpine County, and you were our first gold medal winner, which is pretty exciting. And I know, especially in smaller local rural governments, you end up wearing lots of hats. But just wanted, well, first of all, thank you and give you the award, but also want to see that, kind of what you're hoping Alpine County, a county like Alpine County, gets out of the streamlining effort.
Thank you for having me here today. I am the county administrative officer, but I really just want to thank our community development department because they spearheaded this project right when AB 1236 came out. They reviewed protocols and ordinances from larger jurisdictions, and we're able to put an ordinance together to be considered by our Board of Supervisors last fall. And so we're hoping that with streamlined permitting processes, we'll just make it easier for our customers who want to install these to be able to get through the process as quickly and easily as possible. We're hoping to attract, we have 2 major ski resorts in Alpine County, Kirkwood and Bear Valley. And we have a lot of people that come up from the Bay Area to ski. And so we anticipate that hopefully we'll be able to provide these stations easier for people that need to be able to use them.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And as a skier, I really appreciate that. And I know there's a lot of all-wheel drive electric vehicles on offer now, which is really exciting to get up there. But thank you, Alpine County, and Nicole, thanks for receiving the award. And next, I wanted to move on to Alameda County. And so we have Jesse Denver, who is from the East Bay community. Gosh, what is it? Wait. It's I had this written down, East Bay Community, well, the CCA from the East Bay. Jesse, why did I blank on that? I don't know. But anyhow, this is a great example because the CCAs have a ton of connections within the communities. They're, part local government, streamlined. But Jesse, what motivated you to make this happen? And can you please correct for the record, it's the East Bay Clean Energy. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. East Bay Community Energy
Thank you.
is a joint power authority of Alameda County. And we are the public power provider in Alameda County. And we partnered last year with the California Energy Commission to co-fund our pending Cal EVIP incentive program. And our motivation was really wanting to ensure that our entire service area was in compliance with AB 1236 before we launch the Cal EVIP program later this year. So EBCE, working with all of our local government JPA members, we provided technical assistance to all of our member cities, plus the city of Alameda, who has its own municipal utility, to help get them streamlined. And I'd really like to extend our sincere thanks, Tyson, to the GoBiz team for all of your responsiveness as we facilitated, compliance approval for all 15 of the county's communities. This is a huge milestone for us, and I'd like to encourage everyone on the line to take advantage of the support that GoBiz has to lend. EBCE, we're thrilled to achieve this major milestone and are grateful to accept this award on behalf of our local government partners. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jesse. We really appreciate all the work you've done. And also, just for everybody else, we got Newark. The city of Newark was the last one to come in. I think we confirmed it on Tuesday. So like right at the edge, it was pretty exciting right at the end of the Olympics. So thank you again for all your hard work. And next we'll go to the city and county of San Francisco, which, Lowell's from the Department of Environment. They've been a leader in zero emission vehicle related thinking for a long, long time. But I wanted to see, what was it like for you kind of working across departments to get everybody in line?
Hi, Tyson. Thanks very much. And I just want to thank you, GoBiz, Veloz, for forming this forum, and to echo what Jesse has said, that the GoBiz team was instrumental in helping the city and county of San Francisco meet this milestone. And to answer your question, the simple answer was that it took a whole team. It was a collective effort of the city family to get together. We specifically had a lot of support from the Department of Building Inspections, Planning Department, Department of Public Works, and everybody was able to galvanize their effort on meeting the requirement, understanding it, with support from GoBiz. And so I just want to echo that the support that's provided by your office and your colleagues have been instrumental in helping the city family get into compliance.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it. And it goes both ways. There's no way any of this happens without local champions and local leadership. And so thank you for all you and your team have done. All right, then we have Napa County. And this was one of the more interesting ones too, because, Gopal, who is officially a consultant, took it upon himself to really get all the Napa County and cities in line. And so just, Gopal, what advice do you have for others who, are working outside of the city or county government, but, can come in and help really motivate that change within the community?
All right, first, thank you for inviting me to speak. I wanted, our code officials who actually did all the hard work to come on. But because this is all completely alien to me, the advantage I have in this relatively small county, right? We have less than 150,000 people, but 6 separate jurisdictions. I got a document from Sonoma County. They had done, I think this preceded AB 1236's, GoBiz's, permitting package that came out. And they said, you can use this in Napa County. All you need to do is scratch out Sonoma, write Napa, and you have a finished product. So I took that to our coalition of building officials, right? And said, I don't understand this, but here it is. Why don't you review it and pass it? And again, it's a small community, right? Just six jurisdictions, but it still took 3 years. And part of the reason it took as long as it did is it required each jurisdiction to pass its own ordinance. And there was no urgency to pass the ordinance because here in Napa, relatively rural county, we didn't see, there was no one banging on their door saying, hey, we're not getting our permits, EV charging permits approved in time. So there was no urgency, right, to approve it. And so I think that's part of what will help someone else who's trying to get this moving forward, is to convey that urgency, not just from a climate solution standpoint, but all these, carrots and sticks that are looming, in the very near future, to encourage us to go down this path. And I think Kylan just mentioned this so casually. It needs to be said very, very loudly. Kylan, can you come back on and tell us what California's biggest export is?
Sure. So our biggest export is zero emission vehicles. So this is not just a climate tool; it's an economic development tool for the state.
Yeah, and people don't know this. And so if they recognize that this is a massive, shift that's taking place, and when the shift takes place, it's going to happen really fast. And if we don't manage this transition well, we'll be stuck, with unhappy people with, instead of gas lines, there'll be car charging station lines. So we don't want to have any of that stuff. So we need to, prepare for this, move forward. Anyway, so thank you, not just to you for all the rapid support, very responsive support, especially from you, Kylan, when I put our county and city and town officials in touch with you, but to them for actually having done this. And we just like Newark came in at the last possible minute. I think one of our jurisdictions came in at the last possible minute too. So we're now gold medal winners. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Gopal, and thanks for all the work that you've done to help coordinate and bring everybody along. That's really, that's what it takes. And a big thanks to Kylan too. He really has been super responsive, kind of a one-man machine out of our shop, is all across the state. So to close it out, I want to go to Tuolumne County, and Supervisor Campbell is here. And I think, it's really important. We need leadership from, boards of supervisors, from city councils, kind of, what got you engaged in this, and where did your fellow supervisors motivated to push for the streamlining? Supervisor Campbell.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the recognition. I mean, we don't do these things to get awards and recognition, but we do them because of the right thing for our communities, for the environment, and for our economies. But to be included in such a prestigious group as this is really gratifying, and it really makes the work, it really makes it feel good to be recognized for the work that's gone into this. And yeah, our county is, we have about 54,000 people in our county, yet we are the gateway to Yosemite National Park, which is one of, it's the jewel of our national park system. And while our county is relatively small and rural, we have 3 to 5 million visitors coming through every year into this natural resources, this beautiful natural resource. And so we have a great deal of interest in transit, in getting people into the national park to enjoy the beauty and the majesty of it, but also being respectful of and preserving that beauty that we all enjoy so much. And that's the reason why we choose to live in these places. But on the other side of that is, we are a community, and we have economies, we have people that need jobs, and they need viable opportunities. And working on zero emission vehicle planning is central to that. It is the wave of the future. And if we're not going to be embracing the future, then we're going to be left behind. And the way you do that is you partner between different agencies, you partner with private enterprises, and you find ways to get out ahead of these emerging technologies. And this goes back, 90 years ago. I think it was 1936 is when we had the Electrify Rural Communities Act. And that was a group of leaders, of political leaders, of administrative leaders in government, deciding that we need to actually take initiative to electrify these communities that would otherwise not have access to this technology. And so here, it's the same exact element. If government and private enterprise do not take the initiative to make sure that rural communities like Tuolumne County don't have charging stations, don't have the infrastructure necessary to support electric vehicles, then we're going to be left behind. And I really want to dive out also and thank our Tuolumne County Transportation Commission. They were actually the ones that had the foresight to create our zero emission vehicle plan Also Quincy and Brian Bell with our community development department. You know, they're the ones that turned this this idea into a streamlined process, you know, which that's really the hard part. Like, I have lots of great ideas, but actually getting it to work is something that, you know, our community development department took the lead on, and they did a fantastic job. And then you saw Cole today. He's our resident genius when it comes to all things economic and partnerships. And so, you know, we just have a fantastic team, and that's what you need to make these things happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Supervisor Campbell. Thank you to everybody. You guys are all awesome. We really appreciate it. And just spread the word. We're going to keep this thing rolling. We'll be announcing probably some new events here coming up in the future, you know, and we'll, you know, keep exporting this to, you know, other cities and counties. It's, you know, city by city, county by county, and pretty soon it'll be the best place to get permitted in the country. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to Lisa. Thank you to Veloz for organizing this. Thank you very much to Kylan for all your work going in, and everybody here. And if you're an aspiring local champion, please contact any one of us and we'll help you get all the resources you need to keep this thing moving. So thank you very much. And thanks to all the winners.
Yeah, congratulations, everyone. Good job. And thanks, Tyson, and thanks, Kylan, for all your hard work with GoBiz. So with that, I want to thank everyone who stuck with us. We had a great number of people join us for this award ceremony. Congratulations, and everyone have a great day, and we'll see you hopefully in our next webinar. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.